Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Magical Learning Podcast for 2022. I hope everyone had a cool Christmas break and New Year's time, holiday break there. This year, we're going to be starting our podcast with the podcast starting off the year right. But before we do that, let's introduce who's on the podcast today and let's see how they went over the holiday period. So I'll start with Alan. Alan, how was your holiday period?
G'day, Jez. It's great to be back. Yeah, had a really good time, and for me it was about focusing on spending some time with the kids, which I guess I can often forget that when things get a bit busy. So that's what I've really enjoyed over the Christmas break.
Awesome. Well, that sounds great, and you look nice and summery, which is also something good. Enjoying the good weather.
Thanks, Jez.
Danette, how was your holiday break?
Hey, Jez, and hey, everyone. Happy 22,
Mm-hmm.
22? Yeah, got that, 2022, whatever it is. My break was really nice. So we had some time down the coast, south coast of New South Wales before Christmas with some of the kids and our granddaughter, Miss Miller. So that was fun. Then my brother and my niece came in from the US for 5 days. So it was really nice just to hang out with them at home. And then Grahame and I just had some quiet time for a couple of days, and now we're back into work. So yeah, all good. And avoiding COVID, Omicron. So that's good too.
Well done so far on avoiding it. Good thinking. And Grahame, welcome to the first podcast of 2022. How was your break?
Hey, Jez, thanks. Good to be back. As Danette said, we got some time with the kids before Christmas, some time with Eric and her mum and dad when he flew back in, and back in the slightly poorly lit office space, watching the rain come down outside. It's good to be here. Good to be back. Welcome to 2022, everybody. It's going to be completely different to that thing that we knew as 2021. Completely.
Yes.
Like there's a 2 on the end instead of a 1. Big difference. Everything's different.
So everyone, make sure you're paying attention to that. I think that's important. So thanks for that reminder as well, Grahame.
How about you, Jez? Tell us about what you did.
Yeah, well, I got to hang out with all of you, except for Alan. Sorry, Alan, but next time, I got to hang out with you too, and that was really fun. We got to go down the coast, got to see everyone, and then over New Year's we got to see some friends in Melbourne, and have so far avoided COVID in Melbourne, which is pretty good. So we're feeling happy about that so far, but who knows, But it sounds like so far we've all started the year off right. So maybe we can help some people that might be trying some stuff this year and not sure how to start off the year right. This could be a good podcast for people who I'm sure are trying some new stuff. So I might start off with this question, the first question for 2022, which is, what are some mistakes people might make when trying to start the new year on a new foot? And I might start with Grahame for this one. So what are some mistakes people might make when trying to start the new year on a new foot?
I think it's a great question. Probably the first one is timing. Realistically, any resolution we declare to ourselves, to our friends, to the universe at 11:59 on the 31st of December is pointless to some extent. And I think probably the bigger mistake than that, rather than timing, is trying to change too much too soon. So I think New Year's resolutions are no different in one respect to a resolution we make on the 17th of May. It's really, I think, more about just how much we're trying to change.
Well, that's a good observation. What do you think, maybe Grahame, just to break that down a little bit more, what does it mean that someone might be trying to change too much too quickly?
So understanding what we know about how the human brain approaches change and the uncertainty attached to change. If I decide that I want to get healthier, so I'm going to go to the gym 5 days a week, and I heard about this amazing thing called having cold showers, which, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, yes, there is some evidence to show that it actually is good for you within reason. But I'm going to have like a cold shower every day of the week because it's a fantastic thing to do. And I'm going to go to the gym 5 days a week. And I'm going to completely change my diet. I'm going to cut out red meat and I'm going to become a vegan. And I'm going to do all of that starting tomorrow morning, the 1st of January, because that seems like a good thing to do. And the reality is, we can get all excited about it initially, but it's just massively hard work for our brain. And at some point it says, no, too hard. So we stop.
Yeah, well, that's good. I think that's a really important thing for people to know. That's not just your will; it's also your brain can just check out and be like, I can't do this. So it doesn't necessarily have to do with your ambition or how passionate you are about anything. It's just can be other factors. Alan, what are some mistakes people might make when trying to start the new year on a new foot?
Yeah, I can really relate to what Grahame was saying there. And I love how Graham's mentioned that it's difficult for our brain. I've just started Pilates and did the first class this morning with my wife. And she said, what do you think? We'll do it twice a week. And I found myself, thanks for the thumbs up there, Grahame. And I said, let's do it 5 times a week. Knowing that that's what my ego wants. And I went with the body can't handle that. To show up tomorrow, I know I'm going to be sore. And I love that Graham's brought to my awareness that it takes time for our brain to change routines and I guess not freak out with too much change at once.
Well, I love the passion, Alan. I think that's beautiful to really try and step it up to 5 days a week. I respect the effort. Danette, what are some mistakes people might make when trying to start the new year on a new foot?
Okay, so I think one of the first ones is the moment we falter, beating ourselves up rather than just going, you know what, this is just part of change process. So tomorrow I'll start again, rather than tomorrow I'm going to quit because I gave up today or I didn't do it as I wanted to. 2 other things, I think one is being careful about the goals that you actually pick. Are they yours or are they someone else's? And so you really don't have that commitment anyway if they're someone else's. And the other one I think is believing that it's external, whereas really if we want to be good at whatever it is, it's focusing internally on why is that important to me? Why should how's this going to help me with my growth, whether it's physical, spiritual, emotional, or mentally, and then just going, okay, how do I grow that part of me? And when something, when I hit those roadblocks where I resist going to the Pilates twice a week instead of 5 times a week or whatever it is, that you go, okay, what's that resistance about? So it's looking internal rather than going, oh, well, it's because I didn't like this externally or whatever. So it's recognizing that at the end of the day, the changes we really need are all internal and they're in different parts of us, whether it's, as I said, intellectual, physical, emotional or spiritual. So it's sort of focusing on those key areas for yourself, because this year is going to be a challenging year, and challenging can be both positive and negative, because there could be, for me, I see challenging as there's more opportunities out there. There's more things that are going to grow me. So setting up really good goals for 2022 is really important, because that helps us be more sustainable to serve others. But we first have to serve ourselves by looking after ourselves. Long-winded answer. Apologies.
No, that's perfect, because I think there's a lot in there. I think you're right about sort of, I guess, preparing for the event where it may not work straight away. And I think thinking about that before you sort of get into it is a good way to approach it, because I think that can probably help people when, you hit the first stumbling block and you kind of feel like you might throw it away.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. I think some mistakes that I've noticed just mostly with myself, or mostly myself, is that trying something that I've already failed at, but the same way that I failed at it without adjusting it at all, just being like, this year I'm just going to try this again, and usually yields the same results. I also find that sometimes a mistake that I can make sometimes with these New Year's resolutions is thinking that the only thing that stopped me before is the calendar. And, that as of January, I'm going to have the motivation and the drive to do something that I had no drive to do in December. And And then I also think that putting pressure on the resolution to both change your life and have results happen straight away. I think with a New Year's resolution, it's a year that is the time scale, not January.
True.
Yeah. So we've looked at some mistakes people might be making. Hopefully some people have heard this and thought, yes, this is where I'm stuck. Let's go the other way. Let's flip the coin. What are some ways you can achieve your goals for the year? And I'll start with you, Danette, this time.
And Jez, I'm actually going to riff off one of the things that you talked about. I think it's really important to look at what worked in previous years, but also what didn't. And just like you said, not trying to do it the same way exactly as you did last year if it didn't work, but think about, okay, which bits of that did work for me and which bits maybe stopped me from doing it. So for example, when COVID started, I got to 100 push-ups. And then over the last year, sort of it was very intermittent. So I went, you know what, just start back, but start really small again. And so today I did 70 and I was like, remember to celebrate, which I was excited about. But I also learned a beautiful habit. So I'm reading a book at the moment, which I'll do a book review on shortly, called The High Five Habit by Mel Robbins. And she talks about, before you even look at anything in the morning, look in the mirror and high five yourself. Because you know, when you high five someone, you smile, it makes you feel really good. And it sort of says to you, you know, you matter, because, you know, if we don't look after ourselves, we can't look after others. And she says, make up a little mantra to remind yourself about, you know, what you want to achieve. And so mine is that, you know, look for miracles everywhere. There's magic everywhere. And that starts my day off in a beautiful way. And then if I don't do the push-ups, it's okay. But if I do, like this morning, I forgot to do them when I hopped in the shower, but I did them sort of when I remembered. I went, oh, haven't done them, go and do them now. So I think it's, don't try and do too much, as Grahame said, but get granular in terms of what worked, what didn't, and make sure that, don't beat yourself up again if it doesn't work first time. Go, okay, what could I change that would make it better tomorrow? Thanks, Jess. Great question.
Oh, no, great answer. I think that was really good. And I think that push-up thing, if people haven't heard about that, you can go back into our podcast archive, and Danette's talked about it before. So that's a good one that you did actually, you know, at least achieve exactly kind of what you were looking for last year. So it's a good basis for people to listen to. Alan, what are some ways to achieve your goals for the year?
One that's, I guess, playing out in my mind, Jez, is connecting to why. I went away on a snow skiing trip a couple of years ago, and I remember during the day, a lot of the guys dropped out and went home. And at the end of the day, there was only 3 of us left. And the story in my mind, watching the other guys drop out, was I was getting too old for this. Yet out of the 3 guys left at the end of the day, and I was 50, there was a 70-year-old guy still skiing. And I remember talking to him thinking, I want to know what it is that he does. And one of the big things that stood out was he goes to the gym 3 times a week. And that's kind of where my Pilates has kicked in, where I know I don't enjoy the gym. I've tried that before. For me, the gym is so boring. So I'm trying something different, and I'm connecting it to, I want to be that guy who can still snow ski when he's 70.
That's a great story, and I love it. And it does remind me a little bit of in lockdown. I love playing basketball, but I started doing YouTube dance lessons because I couldn't go outside. The basketball courts were closed, and I found that it increased my flexibility when I went back to the basketball courts. So your Pilates may even make you better at skiing than, you know, a lot of these other younger whippersnappers.
Nice.
Grahame, what are some ways you can achieve your goals for the year?
I think for me, certainly the way I think about it, and this goes back to what I was saying before about the resistance we get from our brain to change, is start small and celebrate just our business coach, Robin Sharma, used to talk about 1% wins and small daily improvements over time. So we don't get from 0 to hero overnight, even though a lot of people don't like to think that that's how it happens, but it never does. So whatever it is that you resolve that you want to change or to introduce into your life, think about how you can start with just tiny steps. So just make it ridiculously easy to do the first step, and then do the crazy YouTube party dance thing at the end of that, or whatever, do Danette's, happy dancing, whatever it is. But when you take the first step, celebrate. Give yourself a mental high five. I love the Mel Robbins thing, Danette. Stand in the mirror and give yourself a high five first thing in the morning. Reminds me of Louise Hay when she used to talk about doing the mirror work, and it's the same sort of thing. Louise used to have a mirror on a desk. And when she sat at a desk, she'd look at herself in the mirror and say, "Hey, gorgeous, how are you doing? You look amazing today." That sort of thing actually works. So I think start small and celebrate every single step. And the other thing I would strongly encourage people to do, because I know it has helped me in the past, is get yourself an accountability buddy or an accountability partner. And it's just someone that you trust, that you believe has your best interest in heart, and you share your goal, whatever your resolution is, with them and why it's important to you. And then they respectfully, lovingly will hold you to account. So they'll check in with you, once a day, once a week, whatever it happens to be. And for a lot of us, just having that external accountability is the additional push we need to actually, to take action.
Yeah,
Yep.
I was just going to say, I think that's a really, really good one. Accountability buddies, I think, are a fantastic idea. So good suggestion, Grahame. Just some quick notes that I had. I considered December this, but I think January can also work. January can also be a free trial period for your New Year's resolution to see if it works. Because I also think it's a good opportunity if you have 2 or 3, maybe you can test them all out, see if any of them are sticking, if any of them aren't, and you can sort of be like, okay, well, maybe this is the one to do. And I think, with this year, we're probably all going to have to be a bit more adaptable with what our goals are. So I think even having a bit of a gray area with the goal might be helpful. Like, so instead of, I want a 6-pack, maybe it's, I want to be healthier. It's more like a general thing, because who knows what's going to happen. And I think, if it's a bit grayer, you can kind of be your own judge.
Can you start maybe with a 1-pack, Jez, and sort of work towards so I'm going to have a 1-pack after 2 months, and then a 4. Does that work? 4-pack after 4 months? No, 2-pack. Yeah. Anyway, I'm not good at maths, but.
Well, you can also do the maths and get a pack every 2 months
by the end of the year.
Perfect. Yeah, so I think that's a good approach as well. Break down your goals into achievable packs that you can work on. And awesome. Well, thank you all so much for that so far. Let's dive into the final part here. And this is something that I thought for people, because it's a weird time. People might not have any ideas of what sort of goals to have, because it's been a sort of up and down couple of years. So I thought, what are some different goals people can try for this year? And I'll start with you, Grahame, for this one.
Thanks, Jess. It's I got to this question. I thought, wow, I have no idea. And it's a great question. So thanks for sharing it with us. But I'll go back to Al's comment before about why. Because I think, again, my experience with setting and achieving goals is there needs to be some connection to the why thing. If we don't have some genuine sort of emotional attachment, not just in the intellectual desire to do something, but if there's no real emotional attachment to that change, that goal, whatever it is, then I think it's much more likely that we probably won't get there. So, one way of thinking about setting different goals is thinking about, well, what matters to me? What are my values? What's important to me? And then the last thing that I wrote down was, well, in fact, 2 things, actually. One was in thinking about a goal or a resolution that I might want to set at any point during the year. I love your insight, just by the way, about the fact that the only thing stopping me from achieving this is the damn calendar. Yeah, good point. So when I think about a goal or resolution that I might want to set for the coming year, does it feel heavy or does it feel light? And this is an idea that I got out of a book from Dane here called Being You, Changing the World years ago. So if something feels light for me, then it actually fits me. It will work for me. It's a lot easier for me to do. But if I think about something I want to do and it feels really heavy, it's not for me at all. And I definitely shouldn't do it. The last thing I was going to say is the last 2 years for a lot of humanity have been a weird combination of worrying about other people and being incredibly self-focused. And I'm not saying that in a judgmental way. I think that's just where we've ended up. My wish for 2022 would be that we all look for resolutions that fit into the theme of how can I be of service to others.
I think that's a great answer. And I think without giving a specific, I think it's a beautiful way to look at resolutions as well. Not only, I love the idea of if it feels light or if it feels heavy is a great way to judge if it's good for you at the moment. I think that's a really good insight, and hopefully that'll help people decide on some stuff. So thanks for that, Grahame. Alan, what are some different goals people can try this year?
Yeah, great question, Jez. I guess I'm coming from a place Danette mentioned before, internal, which is quite often something that I forget. And tapping into what Grahame just said, then patience, or not patience, presence was the thing that came up for me, is about being present to the other people in the room. I'm wondering if that can just be a goal on its own, just being present. Yes, as opposed to, you know, an external goal of, you know, going to the Pilates class, or maybe it's going to the Pilates class and being present to the people in the room there as well, or being present to, am I judging myself? Yeah, am I judging everybody else in the room, or am I being loved when I'm in that room?
I love that one. That's also great. And I think that that's a perfect one. It's something I'm definitely going to work on this year, being present after just being pretty technology heavy, it's always a good thing to be. So a good one. Thanks, Alan.
Yes.
And Danette, what are some different goals that people can try for this year?
So a couple that I could think of. One is just expanding ourselves in terms of creativity and fun. So looking at, last year for me, we got through it, but it felt a bit heavy. And one of the things that I realized is I wasn't doing as many creative things. So for me, it's coming back to a bit of creativity, just to have fun and enjoy stuff. So yesterday I did cooking in the afternoon and made some yummy stuff. Delicious. I think the other one, and this came from a book that I read last year called Love People Use Things. And it was written by the minimalists. And they talked about, if you buy something, then get rid of 10 other things to reduce the clutter. Because clutter, whether it's physical, whether it's mental, it makes it hard to actually enjoy what is there. So get rid of things that aren't beautiful. And when you bring something in the house, bring something that's beautiful, that is going to, as Grahame said, make you feel lighter. So I really like that idea of sort of stripping away some of the clutter in our house. And yes, I will be giving away a number of books this year. Graham's already going, woohoo. And
we have a couple of spares.
To go on Graham's thing, I think the whole bit about community, looking at how we can serve others. So I love Al's bit about presence, and I think we need to be present with ourselves first in order to then be present with others. So what makes me feel lighter, what doesn't. And I think and Grahame and I have had this conversation in the last couple of days, the being rather than the doing. So you do the work, but then at a point, rather than going, well, I haven't ticked my one pack yet, but I'm half or 3/4 of a pack, surrendering to the fact that you've done your best and celebrating that rather than beating yourself up. So I think one of the things I'd love a lot of people to do is lose that perfectionist side of themselves. So do the work to the best of their ability, whether it's, personal work, whether it's work, and then don't beat yourself up if it didn't turn out exactly as you wanted, because there's something coming, I suspect, later on that's going to use that as a perfect way of moving forward. And I'll save the next thing to your last roundup question. Thanks, Jez. Great question.
That's all right. No, that's all. I love that everyone had a different approach to it as well, which is great. So I think there's a lot to take away from that. I just maybe wanted to talk quickly to Danette and Grahame about, you're talking about bringing things into the house that are nice. I know you two have started getting some more artworks in the house, and they look amazing. Is that does that relate to bringing the sort of nice things into the house, and what does that kind of do for you as well, as someone who hasn't really collected too much art?
So for me, it is just bringing, and for those who haven't seen some of the artwork, we have been buying some pictures off Sue Ellen Cook, who is going to come on our podcast shortly and share a bit about her amazing, it's layers of photography that create these, for me, really whimsical, beautiful scenes. And 2 of them are in our bedroom, and just every morning waking up to these things that just spark my imagination. So that for me is beauty. And I think beauty is different for everyone. So for me, they're definitely part of the beauty. I'll hand over to Grahame because he absolutely has some thoughts on this, I'm sure.
Yeah, thanks, Alan. I think, the first one we saw was in the doorway of the Salamanca Gallery in Salamanca Place in Hobart, and it was 94, as Danette said, there were 94 separate images layered over the top of each other to create this thing was just phenomenal. So acknowledging that art is different for everyone, and that's great, because if it were the same thing for everybody, I think it'd be really boring. So for me, it is being able to appreciate, to value, and to be really in awe of someone else's talent and their creativity, because I look at what Sue Ellen's been able to create and I think, well, I haven't got a hope in hell of doing that. And that's okay, because I don't need to. But we do get to, we do get to enjoy, the fruits of her labor and her creativity and her genius, and it's fantastic. Stay tuned for, I don't know, podcast number 3 for 2022. Hopefully what you see behind me, fingers crossed, will be our latest Sue Ellen piece. Yeah. Just waiting for it to get framed. Sorry, Jess.
No, I was just going to say, and if you aren't watching this, you can always watch this on YouTube. I'll have a link in the description so you can see the current painting, and then you can see it change in a couple of weeks.
Yep. Good point. Yes. For those of you listening to this, that was a pointless comment, Grahame. Thank you.
That's all right. But thanks for that. And I think that's just even listening to you two talk about that is a great example of bringing stuff into the house that means something. You can hear from both of you that it means something to you. So I think that that's an exciting way to engage with things in your own house. So I like that. I only just had one point for this last bit, which is some different goals that you can try. And I think that it doesn't necessarily what the goal is, but I think don't set yourself if you start failing and you're like, oh, maybe I should give this up. Even doing something once a week, it may not have the desired end goal, but it will still have a good effect of, if you do something once a week, that's still 52 times in a year, and that's more than a month. So you would have done if you were to put it all together, it would have been a month straight. So it still would be something valuable to do. All right, so let's dive into the final part of this, which is wrapping up. And I'll start with you, Danette. What are your final thoughts on starting the year off right?
So I think focus on your health, well-being, and giving back. And I'd say I really like Grahame's bit about lightness. So how can you reframe it to make it fun, knowing that our brain and body are going to resist change? How do you reframe that, maybe to Alan's why, to be able to go, yep, you know what, I'm going to keep with this. And I really love that idea of do it once a week. Even once a week is still massive impact over 12 months.
Perfect. Yeah, I love that. So thanks for that, Danette. Alan, your final thoughts on starting the year off right?
I think it's comparison, Jez. I was just thinking back to this morning how I was comparing myself to the other people in the class, and some of those people have clearly been doing this for 10 years or more. And it's not about letting my brain go down that path. It's comparing myself to who am I compared to who was I yesterday, and to me that's setting myself up for success.
Perfect. I love that as well. That's a good way to do it. Compare it to yourself yesterday, and you'll be smashing it. So I love that, Alan. Thanks for that. And Grahame, final thoughts on starting the year off right?
I want to paraphrase a really good friend of ours and an amazing human being, Dr. James Rouse, who posted something recently. I won't get it quite right, but what can I do to show up as an amazing human being more of the time? Start there. Not every day, because again, it's setting the bar too high, but just more of the time. And I love, Al sing about I really need to compare myself only to myself forever. So what can I do tomorrow that makes me a little bit better than I was today?
Awesome. Well, thank you all so much. What a great first episode back after the year. It's so good to chat to everyone again. I always look forward to these. So I want to thank you all so much. As always, you can watch this on YouTube, or if you want to listen to it, you can listen to it on Spotify. On Spotify, you can also answer a little question, and we might talk about next week's topic on there as well. Or you can just ask us a question. We'll happily answer it next week. But otherwise, I just want to thank everyone for being on the podcast today. And I hope everyone out there is having a magical week and the start of a magical year.
Love it, Jez.
Thanks,
So
Jez.
much, Jez. Thanks, Alan. Thanks,
Thanks,
Grahame.
Al. Thanks,
Thanks, everyone.
see you guys. Bye.